Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are going to be talking Sister Wives. So we're going to be, again, this is one big episode, and we're going to be covering everything that has happened throughout the show while I was on vacation. So let's start with episode 14 of Sister Wives, which would have been, I believe, the 15th of December. So the big highlights. There's an engagement party for Christine and David. My girl wore white to eat tacos. Like, who does that? And I mean, yeah, I would also bet against you and think that you're going to mess that up. And it did. I mean, you did. She dripped. Anyway, there's that. We're back in Vegas with Meri. So we're going to be kind of going back and forth. Well, I think we're going to be sticking mostly with Meri, at least with my coverage anyways. So we'll go back to her in a minute. So we're in Vegas. She's there with her friend from Utah, and we're seeing her, I think her name was Jenn, right? And then we're seeing another friend there in Vegas. Her name was Brandi, the really feisty one. I like her. So we're also with Kody and Robyn, who are celebrating their anniversary, I think it is. So Robyn basically at this point tells Kody that the girls want to go to church and saying like they want me to help with it and kind of getting his advice on it. Here's the thing. I understand respecting him as your husband, as the father of your children, and getting his advice on what they want to do with going to church. However, these are grown-ass adults. Let's not forget Rihanna and Aurora, that's her name, right? They're grown-ass adults. They can make a decision for themselves as to whether or not they want to go to church, and if they want to find a boy, then they can find a boy while they're in church. They're grown adults. Yes, they've come to you as their mother to help them through that, which I get and I understand, whatever. But it's still like their journey. Kody's input on this doesn't really matter. Hell, Robyn's input on this doesn't really matter because they're grown adults and can make this decision for themselves, and they have decided they want to go to church. So I just don't understand. I understand talking to him about it and say, oh yeah, the girls came to me and said they want to go to church and whatever. Like, this is what happened. You guys can discuss. But that's not kind of what she did. It's kind of like, oh, what's your thoughts on this, Kody? Like, do you think this is a good idea? Like, his input matters. Whether he thinks it's a good idea or not, it doesn't really matter. Mind you, his thoughts and feelings on church is also valid. He has a fear of it, which is all valid. I don't give much to Kody, but I'll give this to Kody. It's valid. He has, if you want to call it religious trauma, but Vaya has religious trauma, but not to say that he doesn't, because I get that he does. And that has a fear. I get it. I totally get it. It's valid. But that's not your daughter's journey. Their journey is going to be different than yours. It's like all of your children's journey is going to be different than what it is for you. Anyway, so what was really kind of funny here. So for those who maybe aren't frequent watchers of Sister Wives and listen to my coverage here, they are FLDS, so that's fundamental Latter-day Saints. That's like the Warren Jeffs type situation. So what I do love about Sister Wives, which I'll say this, is it kind of, cut the stigma out of what FLDS is. Warren Jeffs really fucked it up for everybody. Okay. So yeah, that's what I kind of love about Sister Wives, because I think, listen, FLDS, it's a branch off of LDS. I get it. It's not a part of the main church. I totally understand. But it's valid, whatever. But I think a lot of us, especially people who are true crime watchers and listeners and whatnot, as am I, you feel like FLDS is a little culty because of Mr. Jeffs over there. And the Jeffs that came before him, let's be real, his dad was much better. He just died before he could get caught. So I totally get that. 100%. I think what Warren Jeffs had going on was very culty. I think what his dad had going on was very culty. Yes. And what I loved about this moment with Kody is he just put it out there and said it's a little culty. And I said, shit. Okay. He just said the cult word. Great. About his own where he believed. So interesting. Anyway, another great line that happened in this was from Meri, and she says, why should I stick around for another 10 years, dumbass? And I'm like, but that's exactly it. That's what Kody wanted. Kody would have stayed in this limbo of a marriage for another 10 years where she's in a sexless marriage. Because again, as we kind of seen throughout this already, Meri and Kody have made it very, very, very clear they have not had sex in at least 8 years. No, thank you. I'm Christine getting the hell out of Dodge, being like, I am not going to be in a sexless marriage. I'm just not. So, yeah. Why would a person stick around for an additional decade of no sex, no affection, no way of where this marriage is going without, like who's doing that? It's, yeah. And she ends that off by saying, thank you for your service. And I said, I'm going to use that for a future, if I need to, for a future situation where we like, thank you for your service. Anyway, again, we kind of talked about this already, but I'm going to say this because I thought it was great. Kody is losing my religion. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about religion, the institution of it all. He doesn't care. And you know what? That's okay. That's fine. He has every right to be like, to hell with this. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. Understood. So I think that's again where his like, my fears and my daughters, like going to a church. Again, I totally understand that. But again, these are your children's journey with religion, whatnot. Okay. It's not yours. Anyway. So we kind of then talk about Kody's look with the long hair, with as Letitia has coined it, ramen hair. It's not wrong. It's actually perfect description. So he kind of says at one point, he's like, cut my hair. No, like, come on, Brigham Young had long hair. And I said, Brigham Young, you are not though. You're not, so you're basically equating yourself to the person who is the reason for the season. You know what I mean? This is the person who, is he a prophet? I don't even know. Like, it's been a minute. I believe he's a prophet. Is he a prophet? He has to be, right? He is the person who brought Mormonism into the world, right? And you're equating yourself to him? My guy. Yike. That feels like, isn't that kind of like a God complex a little bit? I'm just saying. Like, yikes. Cut your hair. I don't really particularly know what Brigham Young looks like. I haven't looked. I think I have seen a picture before while watching a documentary about that guy who was stealing like the Mormon artifacts or like replicating them, and it was fake. And yeah, I think I saw a picture of Brigham Young in that moment, but I can't remember because I saw that documentary years ago. Um, but I don't particularly remember whether or not he had long hair. Again, though, that's besides the point, my guy. You're not him. Your hair doesn't look good. Just let it go. Like Elsa says, let it go. Let it go. Can't hold it to your scalp anymore, you know? Anyway. So we then get this little situation of Kody explaining when he met Robyn for the first time. They locked eyes and it was just rainbows and butterflies. And I said, fuck God to my other wives. Did that rhyme? It sounded like it in my head. Anyways, he then kind of says, like, men tried to get to Robyn through me. Well, see, that's not crazy, actually, because there was, as we know, a connection between Robyn and Kody already, with Robyn apparently being married to Meri's brother. So that's understandable. And so, but he's making it seem like it's like this thing of, oh, they're trying to get to her through me and blah, blah, blah. No, it's because there was a connection and they're like, oh, she's hot. Which, you know what? I'll give Robyn this. She was a very pretty girl before she married this idiot and he sucked the life out of her. Like, seriously. But yeah, it's all about Kody when it comes to Robyn. It's how does he fit into this? It's always that. Like, it can't just be, oh, all of these guys were really into you and whatever. It has to be, how do I fit myself into that? Like, oh, yeah. So he's like, we had the gaze, then we locked eyes. God has been my wingman, apparently. And I said, God doesn't have time for you, okay? God has other things to be dealing with. We have wars, we have school shootings. Sorry, I should have done a trigger warning. Trigger warning. We have a lot of bad shit happening in the world right now that God needs to focus on right now. And you think God had time to be your wingman for Robyn? Get the fuck out of here. Anyways, so he's like, I love knowing that no one could take you away. And I'm like, ew, what? He's so gross. I don't want anyone to take Robyn away. I want Robyn to open up her big brown eyes and be like, you're fucked up. I'm gonna take my kids and dip. And I want this man to be left alone for the rest of his life. Seriously. Seriously. She is the idiot that got left behind. I'm gonna keep saying it. Anyway, moving on. As we kind of know, we've been talking about this already. Robyn did not attend Meri's mom's funeral because, well, not everybody could quarantine away from the kids. Again, I'm going to say this. I don't know if I said it on the podcast, but I said it while watching the episode. Where did you get the COVID, ma'am? From the nanny that you didn't really actually need, because what does the nanny do while you don't work and all you have is 2 small kids to take care of because your other grown-ass kids can take care of the damn selves? So that's how you got the COVID, not from attending a funeral, not from whatever the bumfuck. You didn't catch COVID. Again, I had to attend a few funerals now since COVID, okay? Unfortunately, I've had to attend 3 funerals. Now, I did one right in the beginning of COVID, May of 2020, or June, technically, of 2020. I didn't get COVID. And I hugged my family. I didn't get COVID. I had to attend another one. Actually, no, we didn't attend a funeral, actually, for that one. Couldn't do it. But, so I guess the other one would have been in 2022. So by then, it's a little better, whatever, but, so point is, I never got COVID from a funeral. Okay. Especially because back then, I don't know what was happening in the States, but here you had a limit as to how many people can attend a funeral. So, and I guess it would vary state by state, I guess, as well. But Here, you were only allowed to have, I believe, no more than 10 people in the room while the service is happening. Even at the burial ground, you were only allowed to have 10 people at the burial ground. I think they stretched it a little bit to 12, but depending on the situation. But for me, my grandpa, he passed away during COVID, and I was able to attend the funeral. It was supposed to be, priority was supposed to be to the people who were attending. So in that case, like, I'll go a little deeper here. In that case, it was like obviously my grandma, his kids, or some of the kids that were able to be there, my dad, because it's a lot of kids. So the kids that couldn't be there were attending obviously virtually. And there was kids, not just in Canada, but my aunt in New York, my, aunts and uncles in Jamaica. And so, yeah. Um, so it was like my dad, my aunt, but some of the uncles, like his sons, had to stay outside. Not everyone could go in. And then the priority was to the grandkids, to some of the grandkids, obviously, that could be there. So me, my cousin, my other cousins, and yeah, so the priority was on the grandkids as well to be there. So this was supposed to be the same thing for the burial. I didn't get to go to the burial. I didn't get to go because people who were not supposed to be going got in ahead of me and I couldn't get in. So the point is, though, never got COVID from that. I don't even really know how I got COVID the first time. No clue. Um, Potentially just from traveling, from being on the train and whatnot, because I was in the office at that point when I got COVID. So it was just like, that's probably how it happened. Again, point is, didn't get it from a funeral. Ma'am, you could have gone. Quarantining away from the kids, like, yeah, I get it. You don't know if your kids are going to get it, how it's going to be. I understand all of that. COVID was serious and it was real, and I understood. But I mean, Kody went. And did he seriously quarantine away from the kids the entire time? But I don't know. It's just, again, she talks about the fact that, you know, her dad was in the hospital. She couldn't go see her dad in the hospital. Why? I get a hospital is a scary place. And some of the hospitals you couldn't even get in there. I get it. But I mean, fuck, hospitals are a scary place even without COVID. But why? Because again, when you needed to be somewhere, you should have been there. For that, it would have been your dad. For him, it would have been Isabel. Like, anyways, I'm gonna start rambling. Let's get back to it. So then we start laughing about the fact that the conversation with Robyn was really difficult, and we're like, poor Robyn. That conversation was really hard on her. And oh man. But Meri then also goes to the old house to check it out. But again, I don't know, it just feels different with Meri because I'm just like, I feel like it's her closing a chapter. Whereas like with Kody, it's like, I want to go back to there. I don't know. It's just weird. Anyways, that's basically it for episode 14. We're going to take a break here and then we will hop into whatever I talk about with episode 15 or not. I don't know. We'll see how it goes because I'm recording this right after 14 happened, like about a week before after. And there's not going to be an episode 15 for another 2 weeks or about a week. So we'll see how I feel. I think I will definitely. So episode 15 will probably be a thing. And yeah, so we'll be back with episode 15 right after this. Okay, so this is for the next episode of Sister Wives that came out on December 29th. So I still have my 2024 calendar up right now because I'm in the new year, guys. Welcome, 2025. Ooh, okay. So, um, so let's get into it. So, church is happening. Y'all, church is happening. Okay. This church apparently is interdenominational. I'm fine. We'll accept everybody, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, Catholic, whatever. We'll accept you all. It's fine, which is great. That's how it should be. But anyways, he says we love all denominations, and I said certain people could learn a thing or two. I'm just gonna leave that there. So Meri mentions that 6 months after the legal divorce is when Kody stopped coming and staying with her, which she kind of alludes to. It kind of feels like this was something that he kind of like strategically made happen, which I said, yeah, the shoe down fits, because I think it's very true. Now, the whole point of this, though, is because we're going to be kind of creating the timeline. And she said that she didn't feel emotionally supported during that time of doing it, which is true. We'll get to that in a minute, because clearly Kody still doesn't fucking get it, but we'll get to it. And she also felt that she shouldn't be feeling the way she was feeling because it was only a legal divorce. The spiritual connection was still going to be there. The spiritual marriage was still going to be there. But here's what I'm going to say, and I think we've seen this before with Danielle and Garrick from Seeking Sister Wife. And when they did the legal divorce, I mean, Garrick cries for everything, so whatever. But go figure, Garrick maybe had a little more emotion about it than Kody. Anyways, doesn't say much. They went through this legal divorce for Bert 1.0, and it was still a hard process, even though they knew what they were doing it for. It was still a very difficult process. It's not an easy thing. And for him to not understand that is ridiculous to me. And I understand why she's beating herself about it, because she's probably been told by him and others, Robyn, that this is what needs to be done. This is how it should be. And that's very confusing for someone. And she wasn't given the space in the room to come to terms with everything. And I think she would have come to terms with everything, but I think it's also fair that I think maybe the thing, I can't speak for Meri, but if I were Meri, the thing that I would be most worried about happened. That the changes with our union is going to happen because you're not going to show up anymore. I've been demoted in a sense, and that's understandable. So he says, in the only way Kody can, that Meri came to me with this. Okay. And for him, it only felt like shuffling legal paperwork. That's it. He's like, well, you probably went home when we made love that night. You probably didn't. You probably didn't. But even then, if you did, that's even grosser. Why are you... Again, I have a question for him. Does he think that having sex with your wife shows your dedication to her? Any man can have sex. It's not that difficult. So it's just, I don't quite understand what he is trying to get at here with saying, oh, we probably made love after, so everything's fine. But you still didn't show up 6 months later. So what? But yeah, he says it was her idea. So he's just not understanding why it was such a big deal. And it's like, even if you don't understand why it's a big deal, for your wife, it was a big deal. So be a husband, her partner, and just be there. Do what you can. But he can't even do that. So he says he doesn't think that the legal divorce is the reason for the demise of their relationship, because he says the catfishing had already happened. Now, see, that's not true. That's not true. At least your knowledge of the catfishing hadn't happened. Whether Meri was actually catfished, I don't think she was. I really don't think she was. I believe her in terms of her story on that. But your knowledge of the catfishing, I won't forget it because I'll say why. I will never forget that the timeline in terms of the catfishing. You did not know about it at the time of that legal divorce. Here's why. When I watched the episodes following the legal divorce, when we found out about the catfishing, I remember explicitly saying out loud, well, this is probably why she did it, was because of the divorce. It was probably confusing for her, and she maybe spiraled. Now, what we're going to find out now for Meri is it's a little more complicated than that, but that was what I remembered. It was legal divorce, then catfishing. But it's actually legal divorce. 6 months later, he stops coming over and staying with her. 2 months after that point, so 8 months after the legal divorce, is when the catfishing started. And that is what Meri says, and I believe her. So Christine comes in and at this point and says something that I'm like, okay. I leaned in, y'all. I physically leaned in because I'm like, oh, see, now this is what I want. I don't give a shit about your marriage to David. I mean, I'm happy for you that you found your person and whatever. I don't give a flying shit about that. This is the details I want. So Christine comes in and she says, Robyn used to say, I heard these families where the first wife would legally divorce so that the second wife's kids, if she had kids coming in, could be adopted. Huh. Okay. Now, I can't recall, because I'm recording this about a week later, I can't recall if anyone else came in and corroborated this besides Meri and Robyn, which Meri said, yeah, I remember her saying this. But Robyn says, no, I never said that. I don't know about this. Why would I say that? Like, I don't know anything about this. Bitch. She said, I didn't want to be legally married again because of my divorce. It was so traumatic, which, I don't necessarily deny it was traumatic for her, but she's like, I didn't want to be legally married again. I didn't want that. See, here's the thing. What we which I've just recently found out, which I'm still floored by, what we didn't realize is that, now, unless Robyn was married before that we don't know about, Robyn's ex-husband is Meri's brother. So, of course, with everything we're hearing about, he's not present in the children's lives, which I don't know how truthful this is. I've heard bits and pieces of things, so I don't know. But that being said, if what is being said is true and he is not present and wasn't present in these children's lives, well, Meri's interest in these children is even more than the children of the fourth wife, right? These would be family in a sense, right? So, well, not in a sense it is. So, of course, she's going to want to make sure those children are protected and step back so that Robyn could marry Kody for those purposes. But again, here's the thing, ma'am, if you didn't want to be legally married to him, then you wouldn't have legally married him. With or without everything. Because here's the thing, your 3 oldest children were almost adults. What is the point now? You know what I mean? And like, I know, yes, it was for, purposes of protection and everything and whatever. I understand that if anything were to happen to her. But doesn't that all change once you're an adult? Like, you have to, as an adult, say, this is my emergency contact. This is the person. You know what I mean? Like, they would have figured it out because they were almost adults. But anyways, I could be wrong, whatever. But if she didn't want to get legally married, she wouldn't have got legally married. No one was forcing you to do it, unless he was. But this is what I mean. I don't buy it for a minute. I do think she wanted to be legally married, and I don't think it had anything to do with just the kids. I'm sure that was part of it, but it wasn't the whole deal. I think we can all agree. So I don't buy her. I don't. Anyways, um, my only other thing that I'm going to say here in this section of the episode is, why are they all crying in church? Brianna, Laura, Rob. My God. We're just crying. Not so much crying in church. That's not the right thing to say. Crying about church because they were talking to Kody about their experience. And it was like, it was so amazing. Like, it was just, it was really great. And they're crying. I'm just like, the fuck? I can't. Anyways, that is that for that episode of Sister Wives. Now let me see where we're at in terms of the schedule. Because again, I'm recording this early and we come back on the 15th. So yeah, so you should be getting, I think, 2 more episodes in this episode. I think that's what we're gonna be doing. But anyways, we'll see kind of how it goes, unless I say otherwise. But I don't know when the show's ending either. Anyway, that's that for the episode that came out on the 29th. We're gonna take a pause here and we'll be back in with the next episode. Alright, I'm back in to talk this week's episode of Sister Wives, which this episode came out on January 5th. Yeah, that's the episode we're doing. So, not a whole lot happened in this episode, but just kind of like key things that I do want to talk about. So, this ATV accident with Robyn, holy shit. I hope she's okay. But again, I feel like because she said she hit her head, especially, it's like maybe we should call an ambulance just to make sure she's okay before, like, I don't know, moving her. You know what I mean? Is your neck okay? Well, I don't know, sir. What? Um, but anyways, that's kind of that. Um, so we do kind of get this information from Meri where she kind of says to her friend there, Jenn, I think is her name, where she kind of says to her, yeah, so like he said to me, I think she said it in their 20-year anniversary or around 20 years that they were together, that he's like, oh, you made me suffer for 20 years, so I'm going to make you suffer for at least another 20 years before I even give the opportunity, before I even think about giving this relationship a fair chance. So you don't do that to somebody. Someone who you love and care about, who you have a child with. You don't do this tit for tat bullshit. And she's like, no, joke's on him. I didn't make it that long. Girl, you made it too long. I'm sorry. If someone said that to me, and I'm going to make you suffer for the amount of time you made me suffer, I'll be like, okay, great. So, fuck you very much. I'm not going to stick around for this kind of nonsense with a person who is supposed to love me. I don't get it. Kind of the next thing that kind of happens is this conversation after the ATV accident, between, Kody and Robyn, is him kind of being like, can you accept me as monogamous? I didn't, and so, relationships with these other 3 women didn't work out and blah, blah, blah. And like, can you accept me for that? And Robyn is as insistent. Well, what about Janelle? Do you think you could work with Janelle? Do you think you can make that work? Like, you know? And he's like, no, I don't think so. Like, how she is with me is how I was with Meri. No, I don't think this is going to work. And she's like, I think it's gonna work. I think you guys can make it work. Which part of Janelle don't want shit to do with him? Don't you understand? Like, for her to just not get it through her thick fucking skull that these women do not want to be involved with him anymore, does she not understand? Because I'm like, okay, you think that maybe he can make it work or something, but what about the women? What if the women don't want to make it work with him? Like, I don't understand. Like, why are you so persistent on something? Why are you trying to make fetch happen? Why let it go? He's honestly, I hate to say it, but he's right in the sense of you need to start like the healing process of living in the past, of living in this fairy tale land that things are going to work the way you want it to. It's not going to happen. You need to accept what is. Like, anyway, um, the only thing in this conversation that I had to agree with from Robyn was her kind of saying like, but how can you say that you didn't love them? Like, how can you say that you really didn't love these women? I feel like you're trying to rewrite history. And I'm like, that I agree with. Because y'all, narcissists can recognize another narcissist. I'm just saying. Because that's exactly what we've talked about it already with, which is me, with Alicia. He is trying to rewrite history. So he then, this other thing that kind of happened, which is kind of the last thing I'll mention here, is he does kind of talk about um this, which I can't remember the context of why this was brought up. Then again, Kody doesn't need context; he just brings things up anyways. But he kind of talks about this time of him losing his virginity in college to this girl he was in a relationship with, which, when did that happen? When you met Meri. Anyway, he kind of talks about the shame in doing that with the purity culture within being Mormon, and he really struggled with that, which is something I think we hear about quite a bit, and not just Mormonism, but just in any religion. It's it's really ingrained in the LDS church, in his case, the FLDS church. It's very much ingrained of this purity culture and the shame that comes with that, which is legitimate in his reasons. Um, but what does that have to do with your failed marriages? You know what I mean? He does say that the only people who knew about this, which is an interesting terminology he uses here, that the only people who knew about this situation was Meri and Robyn. And it's interesting that he uses this terminology with Robyn, that he told her within a month of them being together, which I don't know what the big deal is. But again, I understand, but I don't understand. But especially when you're like in your 40s at that point, um, is he says like he tells her a month in of them courting, and he's like, because I felt safe with her. So explain then to me how you felt with Meri and why you told her. Because is it because you also felt safe with her? Which doesn't that not then kind of lend to how you felt with her and having some form of love towards her? I'm just spitballing, you know. But anyway, that's basically it. Again, like I said, it was very quick. The only other thing we kind of had throughout the episode was um everything with the wedding, having to do with Christine and David, and losing Avalon. And I'm like, am I gonna have to talk about Avalon gone missing? No. I do remember vaguely. I feel like this was something that was brought up during the special, but I can't remember. Um, but anyways, it's fine. They found her. But yeah, that's basically it. There was not much else to talk about in this episode. It was very quick, very. Oh, I think the only other thing too during the conversation with Jenn with Meri was that she was cutting apart the quilt because he wanted his stuff back or his shirts back, and I was like, really? Like, what was your plan with with the shirts? You know. Anyways, Now that's it. Now we do have one more episode that we're going to be covering in this episode, and then we'll be back. And that's going to be next week's episode. So that will be kind of it in this one big episode. I don't know when the show is ending. I feel like it's been going on forever. Um, but anyways, that's it for this part. We'll have one more break. Um, with the with next week's episode, so we'll be back in just a little bit. All right, so this is me coming in. This is following the January 12th episode. So there's not going to be any coverage of this episode. The episode was all about, you know, um Kody, not Kody really, but Christine and David getting married, which we've already been through this, seen everything already with the wedding special. So I'm not going to be rehashing that. There's nothing to discuss. And really, there's not much to discuss with Kody and Robyn. He's gotten down a tree, and honestly, this tree coming down was probably a metaphor for his life the last few years. So there's really not much else to talk about where that's concerned. And then Meri with a decorating for Halloween. So there wasn't really much else going on in this episode. But we'll be back next week with next week's episode. It looks a little more interesting, and we'll be back for that. So that is it for this episode. Again, this part's being recorded after, not before, the big special announcement, I believe. So, or is it after? It's probably coming out after. I can't remember what's going on. I think it's coming out after. So, this is just a reminder. The Patreon is coming. If you want to get more information on that, there is a special announcement episode that was released prior to this episode that details all of the information that will now also be on the socials. There is going to be a website. On the website, there is a page dedicated to the Patreon's release. So everything will kind of be there. So hope to see you there. We have, all of the information there. Of course, I've mentioned 3 tiers, and on the second tier will be Jersey Shore coverage, a show, covering a show that brought us to where we are today. And then the first documentary that's going to be coming out on the third tier, we're going to be covering the Ashley Madison documentary. So that's kind of that. If you want more information, of course, again, go back to that episode, or you can head to any social media platform or on the website that has all that information. But that's it for me for this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in
Anyway, all the stuff, it's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityt times two, all spelled out, dot podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.